Okay, so today we will be using the overball, or if you haven't got an overball and you've got a roller, you can use that instead. Or if you haven't got either, we just need something that will allow you to roll. So whether it's just a ball or maybe say a tube that you've got that we can use a bit like the roller, and I'll show you how you can use both of them for this. And we're just going to be working on a little bit of rotation and extension to help free up the spine. So come to lay on your mat and have your ball or your roller nearby. And just let yourself settle onto the mat. And letting your arms and your feet be nice and heavy on the floor. Just starting to notice whether you're holding on through your torso, so maybe for your neck, your shoulders, even your mid-back, your lower back. If you're holding on to tension there, as you breathe and let yourself get heavy onto the floor, just notice how that starts to ease. And then as you next exhale, you're going to allow the pelvis to roll back. So you're flattening the lower back towards the floor, but not forcing it. And then as you inhale, let the pelvis tip forwards and you roll towards your tailbone. Your exhale rocks the pelvis back. And the inhale tips the pelvis forwards. And just keep going with that, not aiming for a stretch as such in the lower back, but just starting to mobilize through there. And you might feel that you are going towards your tailbone, or you might feel that there's a little bit of deviation as you go into your arching, and you might find that you're going towards your right sit bone, or maybe it's the left. And just try and notice that, see if you can figure out that pattern. And see if your breath is coming into that pattern. So maybe you are taking your breath towards that right sit bone. Maybe it's the left, I'm saying the right for me. And then maybe it's not even getting to your pelvis. Maybe you're getting stuck around your mid-back, so around the base of the rib cage. And notice how as you flatten the lower back, the feet become heavier into the floor. And as you tip the pelvis forwards, the feet become that little bit lighter. And if you can feel a pattern, say for instance, you are rolling towards your right sit bone, see if you can start to take the pelvis towards the left or vice versa. So it's just a small change, but it might feel harder to do. It might feel like you can't quite get there. You might find that you're really having to think about it. You might find that your shoulders start to tense up around the thought of doing it. See if you can let the shoulders go. You might find that the movement is a little more juddery or just sort of less smooth, less coordinated. So we're just trying to take the body from the pattern that it's so used to into that slightly different pattern. And then just let your pelvis be heavy on the floor for a moment and slide one leg long and then the other. And see how that feels. So you might find that that's quite comfortable to lay with the legs long, but if it's not, do bend your knees. If you can stay there, just notice again, is your breath coming all the way through to your pelvis, or are you getting stuck maybe up around the base of the rib cage, maybe even higher, more around your collarbones? Like, can you let the breath travel? And each time you exhale, just allowing yourself to release onto the mat, getting that little bit heavier, maybe just noticing if you are holding on to any tension, can you let it go? And then And then from there with the arms, you're going to let them float up towards the ceiling and reach the arms right back behind you. And imagine your feet are being pulled in one direction, the arms in the opposite. So it's a really big stretch, as if you've just woken up. Maybe you feel like you need to wiggle around in that stretch. You can take multiple breaths if you needed. But really just try and let everything squeeze and pull the arms one way, the feet the other. And then as you exhale, let everything release. If the arms can lay back on the floor, then let them. Maybe the elbows have to bend to be there, that's fine. And then do the same again, stretching in opposite directions. So let the legs squeeze, the arms squeeze, the shoulders are coming towards your ears, maybe your middle is kind of pressing towards the floor. And then this time, bring the arms up and over, back down by your side. Maybe even just notice if there's a change there. So with the right leg, we're going to let that leg turn in. So your toes and your knees will end up looking towards your left leg. You might find that the knee buckles, it might bend, that's fine. Let it, in fact. And then let that right leg turn out. So you're rolling it out, the knee and the toe face away from the left leg, and then go into internal rotation again. So your internal might bend that knee slightly, and then your external just rolls the leg away. And then the next time that you go into external rotation, you're going to slide that right heel up towards you. The knee's going to come up towards the ceiling, and you're going to push that right foot into the floor. So you start to roll across. Your knee is going to the left, as is your hip, your right hip. So we start to rotate. And just press, and don't force it, but just notice how that feels. And notice that your right shoulder presses back into the mat. Breathe in, and then as you exhale, allow the ribs to roll back. The pelvis rolls back. And then you're going to let that right knee turn out and slide it away. Once that leg is long, let it go into internal rotation. So the knee looks in towards that left leg. And then again, allow it to roll into external rotation, and just keeping it as sort of slow and easy, oh, that's my mat, and lazy as you can. Then pressing that foot into the floor, the knee goes across the body. Breathing in. And then your exhale rolls everything back to the center. The knee turns out, and you're sliding that heel away. Just one more on this side. So we go into internal rotation, the knee looks in and the toes. We go into external rotation, we slide that heel up towards us, and then bring the knee towards the ceiling. Let the knee go across to the left. You're maybe looking slightly to the right, feeling that right shoulder blade get heavy into the floor. And then your exhale allows everything to pour back to the center. Let the knee turn out, and then slide that leg long. And just pause for a moment, maybe fidget to just center yourself and see how that feels through that right hand side. So you might feel longer, lighter perhaps in that leg, flatter towards the floor. Maybe even the same through the right shoulder as well. And then the same with the left, allowing that knee to turn in. So the whole of that leg goes into internal rotation. Like I said, the knee may buckle, and then allow that leg to go into external rotation. Don't bend just yet, go back into internal rotation. And then external. So almost warming up the hip socket. This time as the knee turns, turn the knee in, as the knee turns out, sorry. We then slide that left heel up towards your bottom. Bring the knee towards the ceiling and let the knee go across to that right hand side. So pushing that left foot into the floor, you can look back over the left shoulder. Inhale, and then as you exhale, slowly rolling back so you can feel rib by rib, the rib cage comes back to the floor, the waistline, the lower back. And then again, let that knee turn out and the foot slides away. You let the leg roll into internal rotation, external, and slide. Let the leg come across. Breathe in. And then exhale back. Turn out and let that leg slide. Internal rotation, external, sliding up, and then bringing that knee across. So this is the last time here. Maybe linger for a moment, still pressing that left foot into the floor, really allowing yourself to look back over that left shoulder. The left shoulder is not pushing back, but you can feel that it is pressing towards the floor. And then let the hip pelvis melt all the way back. That knee turns out. And then slide the leg long. And then just pause for a moment and fidget again if you needed to. And see how that feels. Great. From here, the legs will most likely be in turn out. So slide one heel up towards your bottom and bring that knee to point towards the ceiling, and then the other. So just keeping the hips nice and open as we do, and go back to your pelvic tilts. So just allowing the pelvis to roll back, flattening that lower back towards the floor. And then as you inhale, allow the pelvis to tip forwards. And you might feel that you've got that little bit more movement. And then from here, start to peel away from the floor. So you let the pelvis roll back. Your feet are becoming heavy as you start to peel the pelvis up. And just see how that feels. So if you feel like you're getting stuck, I'm kind of stuck at the base of my ribs at the moment. I'm stopping. And I'm going to breathe in here. And then as you exhale, allow the pelvis to melt all the way back down. So bone by bone. And then again, let the pelvis tip forwards. And as you exhale, start to peel the pelvis up when you're ready. So your tailbone rolls towards your pubic bone towards your breastbone. And then continue that as you keep peeling the spine away from the floor. Breathing in. And then as you exhale, melting all the way back down. And then just briefly, so that we can start to unlock in some ways that little bit further up, we're going to slide the left leg long, keep the right foot on the floor. And now this time the knee's not going to go across to the left, it's going to reach forwards. So as you exhale, start to press that right foot down into the ground to reach the knee away. And you'll feel that your pelvis rolls to the left. But just check in, just glance down to look at that knee and check that it is going forwards and not across, or even out to the side actually. And then as you exhale, melt the pelvis all the way back down. And find the moment of melt where that thigh bone sinks into the hip socket. Again, as you exhale, start to press that right foot down. The knee reaches forwards. Again, you can feel that right shoulder, not pushing, but just pressing back into the mat. And again, allow the pelvis to roll back. And we'll just do two more. So as you exhale, the foot presses down into the floor. That knee reaches forwards as if it was being pulled forwards. And it rotates the pelvis to the left. And in fact, if you let your head look to the right, we're rotating the ribs ever so slightly to the right. Come all the way back to the center. And then slide that right leg long. Again, compare how that feels, or have a little fidget, just if you don't quite feel like you are centered. And then slide that left foot in towards you. Bring the knee towards the ceiling. And this time pressing into the left foot. So the foot presses down, the knee reaches forwards, that left hip starts to open, and your right leg is really heavy. So just let it kind of go with the flow almost. It has to roll out into external rotation. You can look over that left shoulder so we get the full rotation of the spine. And then as you exhale, melt everything back towards the center. Breathing in as that leg melts all the way down. And same again. So just picture everything rolling. It's like you're guiding it. You're not pushing it, you're not forcing it. And with this somatic movement, you are wanting to do less to gain more. And as the pelvis comes back towards the floor, you're melting that thigh bone into the hip socket before you go again. So the moment of melt, the moment of switching off is more important than the moment of switching on, actually. One last one. The pelvis rolls to the right, the ribs or your breastbone are actually just looking to the left. And then let that all come back to the center. For a moment, slide the left leg long, just so again you can compare. And it's not just the legs and the lower back, but maybe your ribs, maybe the shoulder blades that you feel are feeling different, maybe more in contact with the floor. So again, from here, slide one heel in and then the other. Place the feet back onto the floor. And then just like what we were doing, but with both legs, to go back into those shoulder bridges, you're pressing both feet into the ground. That starts to roll your pelvis back. You're reaching both knees away, which peels you up. Maybe you'll find that you can go that little bit higher. You've got a little bit more freedom to move. And then breathing in. And as you exhale, melt the breastbone as you roll back down. And then with your ball, this time, you're peeling up away from the floor and you're going to slide the ball underneath your pelvis. So if you've got the roller, I'll show you that in just a moment, but it is going in the same place. It goes across behind the sacrum. And then, yeah, just let your sacrum melt onto that ball. And you might find that you're swaying side to side slightly. So the ball will destabilize you. Again, I'll show the roller in just a second. And then you're going to do your pelvic tilts on the ball. So you'll find that you've got a little bit more freedom to move as the ball will move with you. And just, again, not forcing, not stretching as such, but just allowing that movement to happen. So if you've got the roller, same thing. The roller's going across behind the pelvis. So you're maybe that little bit higher, but then here you'll just have a little bit less movement. You're just tipping back and forwards. kind of keeping it comfortable actually on the roller, just because it will be more of a stretch and a lengthening through the front of the hips. So of course you can just do the same on the mat. But this gives you that little bit more freedom to move. And then whichever you are on, just mind on the ball because it is less stable. Float one knee in towards you and then the other. And just let both knees drop in towards your chest. And you can take your hands onto the knees to draw them towards your chest, maybe more towards your armpits actually. But see, because that might feel quite wobbly on the ball. And if it is, just keep your hands on the floor. Take a few breaths there, just allowing that length to occur through the lower back rather than forcing it. And then whichever one you're on, again on the ball, just mind, because it will be that bit more wobbly. Place one foot to the floor and then take hold of the knee that stays in towards you and slide the foot on the floor away. So you're opening through the front of that hip. If you're on the roller, it will be a much stronger stretch. And just breathe in all the way through to that leg. Picture the long leg, the back of the long leg, just reach in towards the floor so you get that little bit extra. So it's as if the hamstring is taking the back of that thigh bone towards the mat. And then when you next exhale, slide that leg back towards you, draw it all the way in towards you and switch sides. So slide the leg long along the floor, just minding you're not twisting. I'm saying that because this side I want to, but just mind on the ball that you're not twisting. And then breathing all the way through to that leg. And then again, picture the back of that thigh bone, just reach in that little bit more towards the mat. So you get that extra bit of length. And then as you exhale, slide that foot all the way back in and bend both knees towards you. Take a moment and just see how that feels. You might feel that you've got that little bit more length, that little bit more curl for your lower back. And then place one foot to the floor and then the other. Just finding your feet before you then peel the pelvis away from the ball. So your feet will become heavier to allow your pelvis to get lighter, and slide the roller or the ball out of the way. And then melt the spine all the way back down. Good. And maybe slide the legs long for a moment just to see how that feels. Take a few breaths. Notice if you've got a little bit more space for your breath. Is it traveling that bit further down towards the bowl of your pelvis? Good. And then you're welcome to do the opposite side if it turns you towards your screen, if that helps you. But just remember that I might be referencing a side and you're on the other. So I'm going to bend my left knee and I'm going to turn myself to lay on my right hand side. So I'm pushing my left foot into the floor to roll me to the right, and I'm just going to shuffle back on the mat. So in fact, have yourself right towards the back of your mat, and you're laying with the arm as your pillow. If you need a proper cushion rather than having the shoulder, then please do. And just feeling behind you for the mat. And is it in line with the back of your pelvis and in line with the back of your rib cage? And then here we're going to have the ball between the knees. And if it's not the ball, then have your roller between your knees and your ankle joints. And then from here, with the top hand on your top hip, you're going to slide that top leg forwards and allow it to slide back. And the same again, slide the top leg forwards and back. And I seem to have got really dark because I think it's going to rain. So let me just pop the lights on. So as you're sliding the top leg forwards, try and picture that it is, sorry, I'm just trying to get myself in the right spot again. It's sliding forwards almost out of your hip socket. And then as you draw that leg back, it's as if you're drawing the leg into the hip socket. And just make sure you're not rolling back. You're just coming to stack the hips, one on top of the other. And if you find that the bottom leg just keeps gripping and you can't allow it to relax, maybe move your legs slightly higher up or even slightly lower. Yeah. And keep going. Just need to line myself up. There we go. Keep going. And just picture as you slide the leg forwards, that's you taking a step forwards. So we get the rotation through the lumbar. And then as you come back, that's as if the other leg was going to step forwards. And just do 2 more. Inhaling to slide, exhale to retract. And it really is that thigh bone retracting into the hip socket. Last one. And then from here, take the ball away or the roller away, and you're going to hover that top leg as if they were still there. And then slide the top leg forwards and allow it to come back. Slide the leg forwards and back. So doing exactly the same thing, just minding that that bottom leg isn't doing all the work for you. So if the bottom glute is really tensing, mine is a little, I might do something with this in a moment, mine is a little, then rest down. In fact, let's do this. My bottom one really is wanting to grip. If it is for you to turn onto your back and do a glute stretch on that side. So for me, that's my right. Find a deep glute stretch, or if say you've got a tennis ball or a spiky ball, you can always massage out that glute. And then when you feel that that has eased slightly, go back into your sliding. So we're just trying to get that bottom glute to switch off in order for the top glute to switch on. Yeah. So sorry, I'm just checking I'm lined up again. Okay, that's much better for me. So hopefully the same for you, if that's what you were finding. If you're still going with your sliding, pause for a moment. If you've just come back to it, just do a couple more. Hopefully you start to feel that top glute really working, and then rest down. Just while we're here, you can either keep your arm as your pillow, or you're welcome to grab a block or a cushion. Take both hands out in front of you. And in fact, let's use the ball, seeing as we've got it. So you're going to let the ball, or even your roller again, slide forwards. Breathe in. And then as you exhale, slide the ball back. And just keep coming back, but don't bend that top elbow just yet. And then again, sliding forwards. There's your inhale and sliding back. So doing similar to with what we were just doing with the pelvis through the rib cage now. And then just making sure that you're not curling forwards. Your head really is on your spine. So if I was looking at you from above, you're in a straight line through your spine. We reach forwards, we inhale. And then as you exhale, start to bring that ball back. Of course, there's a point where your hand will come off the ball onto your breastbone and allow the ribs to roll back. Breathe in. And then as you exhale, slide that top hand forwards. You refine the ball, you can reach the ball away. It's just quite nice with the ball because it keeps a bit more space between your collarbones, and then take that hand all the way to the breastbone and encourage the ribs to roll back. And it's okay if that top knee is coming with you. Your breath gets you that little bit more length, and then your exhale takes the arm forwards. One more like this. And then this time, take the ball forwards and then slide the arm up on a diagonal. And it's going to keep coming up until your bicep is by your ear and you're looking at the inside of your elbow as you roll all the way back. So you're drawing a semicircle rather than a circle. So now that you're back here, you might find that you get that little bit of a pec stretch. Inhale and then exhale to reverse your circle up over your head and bring the hand back to the ball. Go reaching forwards. I look like I'm going on a diagonal. Really, I should be coming forwards, but I think it's just where my screen is. And then here, reaching up. Inhaling, so really opening through the ribs and then rolling all the way open. Breathing in. And then your exhale reverses. And you're going to do one more like that. So reach forwards first. And then slide that hand up off of the ball. If your fingers can be on the floor, then great. Remember, you're looking at the inside of that elbow as you come into that semicircle. Maybe your semicircle gets a little bit bigger this time. And then reverse it. And so long as it's not in your shoulder, then you're good. Okay, maybe pop the ball. In fact, no, keep it in front of you. I can switch you this way. Let's push ourselves up to sitting, just so that you can stay facing your screen. Take your block to the other end of the mat and come to lay the other way. So you don't need the block at first. You're going to use your arm and just try and line yourself up with the back of your mat. Or say you've got the sofa behind you or a wall behind you, you can be against the wall to start with to get you into that length. So again, we've got the ball between the knees. One foot stacked on top of the other, and then hand on the hip. So from here, we're sliding the top knee forwards and then drawing it back. But don't roll back, just restack those hips. And again, your inhale reaches forwards and your exhale retracts the thigh bone. Good. A few more. Again, if it's gripping in that lower glute at all, or even the side of the leg through the IT band, hit your knees up or maybe take them down. But ideally, we're looking at a right angle through the hip and the torso. Yeah. Last one. Inhale reaches. And then exhale to retract. And we take the ball away. Hovering that top leg, we slide the top leg forwards and then slide it back. Slide forwards and back. And again, just noticing, is that bottom leg gripping? Mine actually feels like I'm not quite in the right spot. There we go, now I can move. And again, seeing as we did do it the other side, pause for a moment and just turn onto your back for a glute stretch. So take the left ankle, so I'm on my left now, but take the left over the right to draw that knee in. And find a strong stretch. And if that's no good for you, then use the ball to massage through the glutes. And then rest down. Turn yourself back again. And see if that has changed what's happening. Ooh, that's much easier. I don't feel like this leg's doing so much work, but I can feel my right glute working now. Last couple. And then stack the hips, lower that leg down. Grab your block or your cushion and take the ball out in front of you. So just making sure that your shoulders, your hips, and your knees are stacked, and even your feet actually. From here, we're sliding that top arm forwards. So your face will start to roll towards the block, and then slide the top arm back. And don't take it off the ball just yet. Just allow yourself to roll back. So sometimes you can feel, I'm actually coming off my mat slightly. Sometimes you can feel whether you're in length or whether you feel like you're more kind of twisting than rotating. And again, slide forwards and back. So make sure the head turns with you, so that here, this time as we reach forwards, we breathe in. And then as you exhale, bring the arm back, take the hand onto your breastbone and allow your ribs to roll. Breathing in. And then as you exhale, slide that top arm forwards. Reaching the ball away, you inhale. As you exhale, sliding back, the hand comes onto the breastbone. It's almost like you're pressing the ribs back, encouraging them to roll back. Inhale. And then exhale to come forwards again. So you're taking the arm straight out from the shoulder. Sorry, I look like I'm up here, but really I'm coming straight out from my shoulder. And then this time, the arm reaches forwards. You're going to reach up on a diagonal and start to draw that semicircle up over your head. So the ribs are really opening, fanning open here. You look towards the inner elbow joint as you roll the ribs all the way back. And the side's a little more sticky for me, so you might find similar. And then start to reach that arm back up, reversing your semicircle. Come all the way back. Reach the ball forwards. Inhale to reach up. And allow yourself to roll. Breathe in. Slide that arm up like you're really reaching for the wall above you. And do one last one. Reaching away. Circling. And then reversing. Good. Again, use that top arm to push you up to sitting and just come up for a moment. Okay, let's be on hands and knees. Given that actually we use the block underneath your head, if you have got one, or if you've got a folded towel or a blanket, you can always use that, or even a book. We'll use it here in a moment, so just keep it nearby and come onto your hands and knees, spreading the fingers, and have the hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And just going back to what we started with, think of a tiny pelvic tilt here. So really that is your flattening and then arching. Flattening and arching. So it's not quite a cat stretch, it's just allowing the pelvis to roll on top of the thigh bones. And then do go into a cat stretch. So you start to flatten that lower back. So that's your belly going up towards the ceiling. And then keep rippling all the way through. The head drops. So you're looking back towards your knees. And imagine you've got magnets between the knees and between the hands, and they're drawing towards one another. Breathe in. And then as you exhale, allow everything to roll back the other way. So the tailbone starts to lengthen back behind you. Your sit bones start to look towards the wall. And you're extending through the upper back. So not hanging. Think about the integrity of your rib cage to your pelvis. There's still one unit, shall we say, and they're moving together. So now here you're maybe looking just past the top of your mat, minding the length through the back of your neck. And again, as you exhale, start to feel the knees magnetize together, the inner thighs, and that starts to roll your pelvis over the top of your femur bones, rippling up into that cat stretch. Imagine magnets drawing the hands and the knees together, so you deepen even further into that stretch. Breathe in and then exhale to go back the other way. This time we go into that cat stretch. Really focus on the tailbone rolling underneath you. So it's tailbone to pubic bone to breastbone as you ripple right up, and then push the floor away. Keep imagining those magnets as if you were kind of narrowing your mat. You're trying to squeeze the mat, and now start to sit back towards your heels. And just notice how that stretch and that movement changes as you come all the way back. And sit back in your child's pose for a moment. From there, start to walk the hands back in towards you to roll up. So we've been working a lot with breath and rotation, which we continue to do, but now rather than release, we need the realign and retone. Yeah. So your block is going to go underneath your left knee, and you're going to come forward. So I'm going left just so that you can see my right one. And again, let the fingers spread onto the floor. So you're really nice and strong, kind of stable in your hands. And then here, play around with whereabouts the hands are. So if I was too far forwards, obviously my hips are going to be quite open. If I'm too far back, I'm not going to be able to move. But see as you go here. I said earlier when we were doing that little rotation with the ball between the knees about retracting the femur bone, the thigh bone into your hip socket. So here I'm breathing in and I'm in a flat back. As I exhale, I'm picturing that right thigh bone coming up into my right hip. And then my inhale takes that knee back down to the ground. Same again, as you exhale, sliding that right thigh bone up into the hip socket. And then inhale, releases. So what you might find is that the left knee gets heavier into your block. The right thigh bone draws up into the hip. So just bringing your hips to parallel. And then inhale to release. And hopefully you start to feel that left glute working. Keep going. I'm just going to show this from a different angle so you can feel this, which some of you possibly know. Make sure you're not leaning to the side. If you're leaning, then we're not getting the rotation. Whereas here, hopefully you can see I'm not leaning, hopefully. I'm not leaning, but I'm turning my pelvis around that thigh bone. I'm sorry, I went a bit high there, but again, just to bring the pelvis parallel to the ceiling. Okay, and then rest down. Slide the block out from underneath that knee and switch to the other side. So you've got the block underneath that right knee. Again, play around with the depth of the fold at the front of the hip joint. So if I'm, say, right back here, I will lean and I will twist. In fact, you can kind of see it. My leggings really show this, that I really twist to come round, whereas being that tiny bit further forwards, I'm now sliding that femur bone up, although I'm going a bit far actually, and then come back down. It's quite useful to see yourself on the screen. Yes, so I guess we did about 10. So really think of that left femur bone coming up into the hip socket and then releasing back down. So you might find that the left hand presses that bit heavier into the floor. That's okay, but we are trying to keep that pressure through the hands similar. Good. 2 more. Just turning the other way so you can see where I'm going. And hopefully you can feel that right glute working. Nice. Sit yourself back in your child's pose for a moment, taking the block out the way. And then walk the hands back in towards you to come back up. Taking the block back underneath that left knee. You can either be still on the hands, or if you needed to, for your wrists, come down on your elbows for this one. And this time we're hovering that knee just like we did, but you're going to take the hip higher. And then let it come all the way down. So I actually find it harder on the elbows, but you choose. Sometimes it just that it takes the pressure out of the wrist and then you can do that a little bit more. So see if you can go higher this time. 10, again, I'm turning this way so you can see. So my leg doesn't go out, goes up. Yeah, you can't quite see the back of my pelvis. On this side, I want to lean, it just needs a bit more stability. Yeah. When you have done 10, sit back for a moment. You can sit in your child's pose to come off of those wrists. You can circle the wrists or whatever you need to do. And then the same on the other side, of course. So use your breath. As you blow, that left thigh bone is coming up into the hip socket. And then you keep coming. Blow the air away. So it's not just the glutes, it's your obliques too. So through the sides of the waist. If 10 is too many, of course, like 6, 8 can be enough. Again, I'm just turning so you can see. The last couple. Okay. And then rest down, take the block out of the way. Come to sit for a moment. And in fact, let's hamstring stretch here. So have your left leg long and your right leg just out to the side. So that right, the sole of your right foot, sorry, is on that left calf. And then try and sit tall, and you're going to reach towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, fold over that leg, drawing the third toe knuckle towards you. And if you can reach your foot, you're welcome to grab hold of the foot. Maybe it's your shin, maybe it's just your knee, but so long as you're finding a stretch through that left leg. Breathe into the stretch. And then as you exhale, re-stack yourself up. Switch sides. So the sole of that left foot is on the right calf this time. And then again, reach the arms up towards the ceiling and dive yourself forwards. See if you can take hold of the foot, maybe not this side for me, the foot or the ankle, the shin, wherever you reach to, and just try and encourage even more stretch. As you next exhale, walk the hands back up to bring yourself up sitting and have both legs long. So sometimes we put a block here, but we're going to move, so don't worry too much about the block. So you want to walk one sit bone forwards and then the other. And keep coming in towards the front of the mat. You might need to use your arms quite a bit as if you were walking, or you might find that you're quite comfortable letting them relax. But you can feel the waist, the pelvis, maybe the legs, not working so much through the legs, but actually the waist and the pelvis moving. And then once you get towards the front of your mat, you're going to walk backwards a bit harder. You might find that you get less movement. I feel like I need to move my arms a bit more. Keep breathing. Try and pick up the sit bone each time. So it is sit bone walking. And notice as you're doing this, there's a figure of 8 through your pelvis. Once you get to the back of the mat, we're going to go forwards again. I've got such a grippy mat, I'm having to pick my feet up, but if you can, let them slide on the floor. Come all the way to the front of that mat because it is an exercise in itself. And then go back again. Come about halfway up your mat. Oh, that is hard today. And then rest. From here, turn yourselves over onto your fronts. Have your hands underneath your forehead and just let yourself settle. And as you breathe, notice what happens in your pelvis. So you might find that as you inhale, your tailbone reaches away from you. And as you exhale, you'll feel that it draws back up towards you. And you're not making that happen, but it will naturally happen. And then just checking in with your legs, make sure that you are laying with the kneecaps on the floor so that your legs aren't in external or internal rotation. As you next exhale, start to press your hands into the mat to draw the shoulders away from your ears so they're sliding down your back as you float the head and shoulders. Let the head come up. You're still looking towards your hands. And then feel here the pubic bone press forwards on your mat. It's like it's drawing towards the front of your mat. And then allow yourself to come all the way back down. So this is still breath related. We're not tensing. We're working, but we're not squeezing anything. We're not, really working too hard. So let it be more natural. So again, it's as you exhale, we float the head and shoulders. The shoulders are drawing away from your ears to allow the head to come up. And then just notice that as you do, that pubic bone gets heavier into the mat as if it was coming forwards. And then releasing all the way back down. This time, try and inhale to float the head and shoulders and just notice how it's different. So again, the shoulders draw away from the ears and it's an inhale to come up. And you might find that your breath gets a little bit stuck. So just stop wherever it gets stuck and then release back down. So don't force it. Don't just push the air into your belly. See if it can really inflate the lungs to inflate the diaphragm and draw the diaphragm down to allow the head and shoulders to come up. And then exhaling releases. Last one here. And then when your head comes back down onto your hands, rest there for a moment. Just paying attention to the legs again here. As you exhale, the back of your right femur bone, the thigh bone, is going to start to float towards the ceiling. So there's not too much gripping going on in your calf. It's the back of the femur bone that floats that leg, and then allow the leg to come back down. Same on the other side, the left femur bone, the back of that bone goes up towards the ceiling, so it's harder for me. And then release. One more on each side, and think again of that figure of 8 that I was saying about in the pelvis. So you might feel that the right side of the pelvis presses into the floor to allow the leg to float. The leg comes down, and then it's the left side of the pelvis pressing into the floor. Keeping the leg really long. Take your hands underneath your armpits once that leg comes down. Push yourself all the way back into a child's pose. Or hug the knees in if that's more comfortable for you, laying on your back. And then walk the hands back in. Take a moment in case you're feeling a little bit heady, but whenever you're ready, bring yourself up to standing. And actually just stand for a moment. Oh, sorry, I'm chopping my head off, but you know where I am. Just standing for a moment and seeing how that feels. And then just have a little walk around the room again, once you're ready, and notice or feel the figure of 8 as you're moving in your feet, in your legs. Maybe you can feel the back of your legs working, in your pelvis, maybe in your ribs, and maybe even in your collarbones. Yeah, and just notice that today as you're moving around. But I hope that feels a little bit more comfortable in your body. All right, thanks for joining me. See you later.